So design is not what most people think it is. Most people think it is making products, and especially making things pretty. They think that design is a part of art. And all of that is wrong. Design is a way of thinking. It's a way of approaching a problem. And I have a rule when I approach a problem, which is never solve the problem I'm asked to solve. Because almost invariably, the problem is the symptom. And unless you understand what the causes of the symptom and eliminate the causes, the symptom returns. We also want to solve the correct problems. You know, engineers and business people are really good at solving problems, but they seldom ask whether that's the right problem. And that's why finding the core issue is so important, and why good designers, when given a brief or given a problem to solve or a project, say, no, let me think about it. Let me see what the real issue is. Let me see if I can do something better than what you've asked me to do. The other thing is that we focus on people. There are lots of problem solvers, but others mostly focus on function, on speed, on cost, on schedule. Those are all very important, but we focus on quality of life for people. And that's what makes us unique. What makes us unique, that is, we have no knowledge, no specific knowledge, and that's a strength, not a weakness. And we focus on the quality of life. And the reason that's a strength is because, therefore, we can apply this to almost any problem. But what we have to do that is we have to find all the specialists and take from them the knowledge and bring them as part of the team and use that to a team that really makes life better for people. Now, there are two kinds of designs. There's more than that, but let me just say two kinds. One of them is where we do mass production, like automobiles or cell phones or most of the stuff in this room. In that case, we can't design for every individual, so we try to understand, though, what the real issues are and design things that work for everyone. And what's interesting is people ask about design for the appropriate cultures. It's interesting that a product like the automobile is basically the same all over the world, but it's not used the same way. So as an American coming into India, I will assure you that the way people drive in India is unique. But again, it's that the car is really kind of a tool and an instrument that you can use in whatever way is most appropriate to the way you live. And so that's how we do mass production. But we also try to help communities. We try to help solve societal issues. And when we do that, we have to do it with the people and have the people suggest the solutions and govern the solutions. Because the traditional designer and traditional foreign aid in design is we send in the experts who study the problem for a month or two and then write a big report. And this report often says, here's the solution, and then you spend billions of dollars in solving the problem, and it doesn't work. Because experts do understand the problem, but they don't understand the people. And what they are doing is what I call colonialism in design, because that's what all the British did to India. We will govern for you, isn't that nice? Well, I don't want to be a colonialist. I want to say, when we are doing a societal problem, something for a community, go in the community, and the community knows what the problem is. We don't have to tell them. They often are already starting to solve the problem, but they don't have resources necessary. They usually are solving the symptom. And also for some problems like sanitation or public health, you need some expert advice, but the experts come in and they are only advising, they're not telling you. They're not telling people what to do. So when we talk about design in India, or for that matter, any place, I want it to be as much as possible by the people and definitely with the people. Let me mention education, which is a big issue in every country. And I do not pretend to be an expert on Indian education, but I have been to Indian schools, grades 1 through 10, and I have been to a number of Indian universities. The Indian government has proposed that in grades 1 through 12, I guess, that we switch to an activity-based learning, which can also be called problem-based learning. I think this is exactly what is needed, because what we do today, and this is true across the world, I'll take the United States as an example. The teacher stands up in front of the classroom and teaches, that is, talks to the students, and the students write it down or remember it, and then they're given an exam in which they have to repeat what the teacher said to them. That's not a way to learn. Doesn't have any motivation. In fact, in the United States, the best teaching is done in grades 1, 2, and 3, where the teachers do projects and engage the students. But as you go higher and higher and higher, it's more lecturing by the teachers, or as you get to college, by the professors, more examinations in which you have to repeat back what you just learned, and there's no motivation. How do you get people excited? On top of that, well, I'll give you my own example. When I went to MIT, our version of IIT, in which I was studying electrical engineering, and I had to take these courses in history and philosophy, and I hated them. Why am I taking them? I just cared about technology. Later on, as I grew older, I realized how important it was, and I therefore studied it myself or made friends with people who were experts who would tell me what to read or have conversations with me. But why did I dislike them so much? Because they were in isolation. What did it have to do with all the other stuff I was doing? When you do problem-based education, you give me a really interesting problem to solve. But in solving it, I soon discover why I need these mathematics, why I need history, why I need this, why I need that, why I need the information from the other disciplines. So why did the government of India say we should do that in grades 1 through 12? What about colleges? What about universities? That's where it's really needed. So when I've come to India, I was really attracted by this new technique of teaching, which is called, I just lost my word. No, social, come on. All right, audience. For the first time, we're trying to teach basically all of the fields to every student, give them a general education.
Liberal arts, liberal education.
Liberal education. My mind went blank when I'm not suffering from stage fright, I'm suffering from age. And liberal education. But liberal education is trying to say you should learn all these different topics that I just explained to you. If they're separately taught, why am I learning this topic? Or what does it got to do with this? I want to be a designer, or I want to be an engineer. Why am I learning this stuff? But if you give people problems, so what I would like to see is liberal education coupled with activity-based learning or problem-based learning. And what I'm delighted to tell you is I visited 4 different schools while I was here. And the dean of the BITS Design School in Mumbai has graciously allowed me to go and visit other schools. And actually, one of the things she said, if I can come with you, you can do that. So I'm on the advisory board of that school. And what we're trying to do is a different kind of education. So it is problem-based, and it gets the students involved in doing interesting things right away. The school is only about 6 weeks old right now. But when the advisory committee was there and we looked at the student projects, we were just overwhelmed at what they were doing in the first 6 weeks. And because they were given interesting tasks to do. They weren't taught how to do it, they just did it. And I've seen that also in some of the other schools. And I think that's the future here. Now, design is a way of thinking, It can be applied to any problem. It can be applied to problems of government. I just talked about education, but think about the policies that governments makes. One of the fundamental principles of human-centered design is that you involve the people you're designing for. You make sure you understand what their needs and desires and capabilities are. But when the government makes policies, do they involve the people they're making policies about? Do they even know the people? No, they think they do. But thinking they do isn't the same as having them in the room and having them discuss and say what they really need. So having designers in the policy making could make a big difference. Actually, the one country that seems to be doing this well is the UK, where at the governmental level, they have designers in the policy making. And I would love to see more of that in every country, because I think design is a field that's badly understood. And when I tell people in government that you should be using designers, because they still think of design as something that is pretty. And the design museums of the world don't help. Because if you have a museum and you want to show design, well, mostly design is a way of thinking, and there's nothing to show. So they show the pretty objects that some designers make, which reinforces the idea that we're all about appearances. That's my starting point. And I'm hoping that in the discussion, then who knows in which direction we will move, but the discussion will bring up new points that we can use.